Well, when I looked at my bingo card for 2024, I did not have on there Justin Trudeau sitting down with a psychologist for a one-on-one interview and really digging into his past, his present, and his future. And that's what we're taking a look at today, ladies and gentlemen. Kind of unusual, but I am here for it because you see Justin Trudeau's narcissism really come to light in these interviews where they always say the same thing. You're not popular. The polls are showing that. People are always showing up to heckle you, to show how much they dislike you. Why are you still here? And well, you know, Justin Trudeau in the past has said that he thinks about quitting, and it's still on his mind. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. And we're going to take a look at the polls just to kick things off. So the Conservatives are sitting at 206 seats projected with a bottom line of 178 and with a top end of 229. I do think that very soon you're going to see that start to crawl above 210 seats, and the Libs are at 80 seats. Conservatives still sitting at 99% likely to win the most seats and 99% likely of winning a majority government. So everything from that aspect is looking really, really good, except for when he sits down for a one-on-one with a psychologist. It's not looking that good for Justin Trudeau. So without further ado, let's get into this interview here.
I'm actually curious about this idea of putting people at ease. How do you think about doing that when you show up?
I don't think about it. Being able to just try and get through people's preconceived notions or expectations or nervousness to try and have a real conversation as quickly as possible is just something that I guess I learned how to try to do throughout my life. Talking about the weather always sort of bored me, but actually having real conversations about things that matter was what I always wanted to do whenever I'd meet anyone. And people would come at me with a certain amount of preconceptions because my father was prime minister, and there's a known factor around me that getting them to a place where they could actually be comfortable in being themselves quickly became something that I wanted to see and do in all my interactions.
Mission accomplished.
Oh, there you go.
This is something of the family business. You got to see the prime minister job up close long before you took it. What surprised you the most that you didn't expect?
Yeah, my first 13 years of life growing up with my dad in this role was the international summits, was the speeches.
So he got a hard on.
Him.
He got a hard on for being in the spotlight. That's plain and simple. When you're raised like that, I mean, look at even kids from Hollywood, never mind politics, but kids from Hollywood that were dragged along by their parents and then they were inevitably put into the same field. It's the exact same outcome, and they're usually worse than their parents, right? For controversies, for attention, for a whole bunch of things. And that's the exact example of how Justin Trudeau's turned out.
In restaurants for the rest of his life, saying, thank you for doing this, thank you for doing that. And it was always the big things. The little things were the things I didn't see as a kid that really matter. When I first got elected, I wasn't leader, I wasn't even on the government side, I was just a simple backbench MP. Discovering the ways in which being a community's representative, being their voice here in Ottawa, being in service of people, even if you're not in government, even if you're not in charge, actually makes a difference. And discovering that made this job a lot more like what I knew professionally, which was being a teacher. It's those little moments, those engagements, that explaining things, those empowering people that was key for me.
So it almost sounds like there are aspects of the job that are better than you expected.
As a little kid, I wanted to, I guess, either be a fireman or an astronaut or a prime minister like my dad, but they were all unreal. And then I went through a long stretch of not wanting to go into politics because I knew how different I was from my father, and he was a very successful prime minister. And it wasn't until later that I realized that there was a path through being a teacher, around process, around people, around connection with people. It was very different than my father's more intellectual approach to politics.
How do you deal with the fact that no matter what you do at work, millions of people are going to disapprove of your decisions and probably dislike you as a person.
First of all, I mean, the line is no matter what you're doing, 30%, like you, 30% hate you, 40% are completely indifferent to the fact that you even exist, right? I mean,
Okay, but that's not the case. With Justin Trudeau, almost everybody hates him, almost everybody disagrees with him, and almost everybody dislikes him. And only a narcissist could sit there. There are flags in his name. No one had F. Harper flags. No one had F. Pierre Poilievre flags. No one had F. Trump flags. People have F. Joe Biden. Not even really. It's more F. Trudeau flags. Although those are like one of the most popular flags in the world in terms of politics, right? Usually people like in America, they have the American flag, they have Donald Trump merch, they have MAGA. MAGA isn't really on a flag, it's on a shirt, it's on a hat. In Canada, it's F. Trudeau, and there are hundreds of thousands of those flags across this country. That's insane. This guy is like producing merch in his name that is against him on a level that we have never seen before. For crying out loud, the stickers, which are linked down below in the description, are everywhere because that's how many people dislike Justin Trudeau. This is wild.
You don't get into this job because you want to be popular or you want to be liked, or if you do, you're in for a rude awakening, because that's not what this job is all about. That's not what this life is all about. This is about service. This is about feeling you can actually make a difference that is meaningful in people's lives, in the direction of the country, in how your country has an impact on the world. The fact that there are people who approve of what I'm doing, there are people who disapprove of what I'm doing, is all par for the course. And if nobody had any opinion on me, positive or negative, it would be that I wasn't doing anything consequential. So you do need to have a little bit of pushback. If I'm raising taxes on the wealthiest, as I am right now, if they weren't pushing back, I'd say, okay, maybe I'm not doing it enough. But the other piece, on a personal level, I was about 7 years old the first time I remember some kid coming up to me in the schoolyard.
What the hell is he talking about? Everybody's pushing back on this capital gains tax because it doesn't just affect the wealthiest people. It affects everyday people like yourself, like your family, like your friends, like myself. You get one good investment in life, right? One good investment. You bought a house a while ago, even if you're lucky enough to get a house right now, if it's not your primary residence, or an investment in the stock market. As that grows and grows and grows, you're going to have to pay way more tax on it. Hundreds of thousands of dollars more tax potentially on your gains because Justin Trudeau's greed and his incompetence for running this country. Like these social programs, all this debt that Trudeau has put us in, he has to cover his ass somehow. He's taxing us. Canada is now one of the highest tax countries in the world. And when I look around, I don't see one of the most thriving economically countries in the world. Like we're suffering. And Trudeau's solution is tax people who have a good investment, tax the weather, because that makes sense somehow.
And saying, my parents didn't vote for your dad, so I don't like you. And I had to sort of adjust to the fact that that had nothing to do with me, who I was. It was everything to do with external perceptions, everything to do with them. And I had to learn to put that aside. But then a few years later, as I got a little more active and going with my dad to different places, I'd go to these rallies where everybody loved him, and therefore everybody loved me. And I also had to learn to put that aside, that it was no realer the people who loved me automatically than the people who disliked me automatically. And getting a really strong sense of self and being able, when you get criticisms or congratulations, to reach below the emotions of that and say, okay, well, what is the nugget of useful criticism that I can actually take constructively, even if it's not meant that way in the slightest? Did I really go a little too far here, or did I really not take into account the concerns of this community there? Well, certainly reasonable criticism out there, whether it's constructive or not, you can find that. And similarly, if people say, oh, you're awesome, well, okay, why exactly? Is it just how it makes you feel, or is it something? So being able to sort of detach yourself from people's perceptions of you is really, really important in a job that is, requires a certain amount of popularity for people to vote for you, but you cannot allow that to drive you or even define you.
What do you say to yourself when the criticism feels particularly painful? Is it just, well, that's my avatar they're reacting to, it's not me?
More recently, when I see people really over the top in the kind of the hatred and polarization and toxicity that is just par for the course in so many democracies now, my instant pivot is, okay, so what happened in their lives to lead them to that place? I try to go for a place of empathy, of, well, what can I do, even if they'll never give me credit for it, to make sure that their life is less bad. And sometimes I can't imagine how to do it, but other times, like, I have to go to a place of reminding myself, and it's not hard because it's in me, I'm the Prime Minister of 40 million Canadians, not just the millions who voted for me. I'm for everyone, and therefore, no matter how much they dislike me, I still have to try and think about, what I can do to make sure that them or their kids or their community is doing better. And that exercise sort of detaches a little bit from what their actual opinion is of me. It gets harder when it goes to my family or some of my team members, where I'm not as able to detach it, because that's, that you're coming after my people. Come after me all you like. I put my name on a sign. I'm standing here for election. I'm doing it. I'm welcoming it. But for others, it makes it harder.
Now, I'm curious about just the confidence it takes to want to do this job in the first place. It used to seem to me to be something that required an unusual.
I feel like he's extremely delusional, and you're just seeing narcissism come out of his pores. And also, he's really heard of the criticism, of him sitting there cross-legged. So he's doing his absolute best not to do it. And this just looks like a bit of a feminine energy trying to mimic that of a masculine man in this stance. And it's this screen right here is a little funny to me.
Usual level of ambition, maybe even arrogance or narcissism, some would say.
There you go.
Over time, I've started to see you just have to think that you could do this job better than the other viable candidates. Yeah. You don't have to think that you're capable of doing a perfect job running one of the most powerful countries on earth. How do you think about that tightrope?
I guess it's not something I think about too much now, because I spent so much time thinking about it over the years. I only saw myself getting into politics when I was younger. I thought, okay, maybe I do politics one day, but it'd be much later, once I've gotten out from under the weight of my last name and historical expectations. As I've proven myself in business, or written a few books, or started a school, or done things that are really meaningful. And then I can go in on my first name. But in my 30s, I was very much a youth activist. I was doing environmental stuff. I was a teacher through my 20s. And I learned from working with young people who had no connection to my father that I had things worth saying. And as I sort of got pulled in a little bit indirectly into partisan politics, I realized, I'm actually good at the things my dad wasn't great at, which is the campaigning, the handshaking, everything. I learned that it was very much my maternal grandfather's side, who was Jimmy Sinclair, was a great retail politician, and he loved it. As I discovered that I was good at pulling people together and mobilizing them and organizing and inspiring and building a great team, I got more and more into politics. And every step of the way, I was somewhat hesitant to take the next step. My father's party, the Liberal Party, reached a total nadir. Like, we were down to 35 seats in the 300+ seat House. We were on our way to oblivion when I came in as leader. And it was an opportunity to rebuild from scratch. But then as I looked around at who else could be leader, I realized, oh wait, nobody gets how hard the work is going to be or the work that needs to be done. And I can sort of see that clearly. So I'm sort of going to be the one who does it, because it's going to take an incredible amount of work that I think I can do better than others. And turns out I was pretty good at it in terms of rebuilding the party.
Look, that's exactly the type of narcissism that people are talking about, including the psychologist that's sitting across of Justin Trudeau in this exact interview. Justin Trudeau actually thinks that he's doing a good job, not just for Canada, not just for our economy, not just for our reputation worldwide, but for the Liberal Party. He thinks that he is the best Liberal Prime Minister and Liberal leader this country has ever seen. The amount of delusion, the amount of looking at himself in the mirror going, "You're doing great. You're doing great, buddy. You're doing great." It's just unfathomable. I cannot believe that he is this committed to the bit, that he's convinced himself that this is the way, like a Mandalorian. It's freaking mind-blowing, folks. Justin Trudeau is going down as the worst prime minister in the history of Canada. He's had 9 years to try and make this country better. Our housing has skyrocketed. The cost of living, the cost of food, the cost of fuel has skyrocketed. Wages have not even nearly kept up with inflation. You can't lie to people and say that it's at 2.7%. It doesn't even matter if you say it's at 3%. People know that it's way above that because you have screwed over our economy, and everybody has to pay for goods and services in this country, and we all are overpaying for everything in a country that cannot afford to do that. And the solution to everything is tax people. Tax Canadians, take their money away, make them angry. It's for their good, though. It's for their own good. They're going to re-vote for me. They're going to vote me back in, man. It's all good. It's not, Justin. It's absolutely not. People are not dumb. You can't treat 40 million people like they're dumb idiots. I don't know what the repercussions are other than losing any reputation that you've ever had and going down in the history as the worst person ever in an entire country. I mean, that's one of the repercussions, absolutely.
Feeling hesitant to take a leadership role. Some of our PhD students at Wharton have shown that a feeling of reluctance, of saying, I'm not sure if I want this, actually can lead to more effective behavior when you're at the helm because you don't think you know all the answers. You don't think you have to make every decision yourself, and it may actually lead you to empower other people more, to learn from other people around you.
Oh, absolutely. Being a good leader, if I was going to be any good in this job, I had to bring around the most brilliant, successful, smartest, most driven people I possibly could to build the team. And I sort of understand that
Well, that's exactly the problem. So Justin Trudeau, again, he's finally admitted that he has not done that, right? Because he's not good at this job. He's not the best at this job, and he has not brought the best minds around him to build this team of Avengers, this team of rejects. Every single Liberal MP at the front bench is also complicit in this. Never, ever have you seen a government in Canada that could and should be found not only with treason, but should be criminally investigated by the RCMP here for crimes that they have committed here, for money laundering, for treason, for all of these advantages that they get from insider knowledge. Insider trading in government, is that even a crime? It should be. It absolutely should be, because that's what they're doing. They overpaid by millions. How much did the app cost? $62 million? On the short end, they overpaid by $61 million and $500,000, right? That's how much they've overpaid for everything here in Canada. And it's all to line their own pockets. This guy's net worth, see now, look, he's backed across his legs. There you go. Embrace your femininity. This feminine person, Justina Trudeau, this individual's net worth is over $100 million. That makes absolutely no sense at all. His salary is $200,000 or $300,000 per year. He still has to spend part of his salary on personal expenses, on things for his family, his kids, his wife at the time. You know, you don't just get to pocket that, and you don't get to double your money. Even if he doubled his money for 9 years, that still wouldn't even be close to if he took 300 grand and it turned to 600 grand, and he did that for 9 years in a row. It still wouldn't even be close to $100 million. Wild, 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 wild. And nobody is believing this guy's crap at all. And I'm not a body language expert, but I'm going to go out and say that this guy is not turning into Justin Trudeau. He's got one shoulder that's kind of facing a little bit out, right? His left shoulder there. He's not giving Trudeau his full attention. And I really feel like he's not even believing what the Prime Minister is saying to his face. It's just that the body language isn't there.
I come to it with an ability to bring people together and mobilize them and create a big vision. But leadership for me was never about being the one at the top of the pyramid, barking out orders. And a good leader is someone who's figuring out how every member of the team can be at peak performance in the most important moments. And that idea of lifting up everyone around you is the way I sort of fell into this leadership role.
One of the risks of surrounding yourself with people you think are smarter than you is that sometimes you feel like an imposter. And you wonder, do I really belong here? Has that affected you over the last 8 years at all?
I was very aware of the imposter syndrome all my life. As a teacher, I kept waiting for someone to knock on the door and say, okay, this was a terrible mistake. We're pulling you. Or, anytime I was giving a speech on environmental responsibility, I was expecting someone, you never actually finished your graduate studies in environmental geography. What are you doing? I was very aware of that. The first day I walked onto Parliament Hill as an elected MP after what was a very tough election for our party, but it was good for me in 2008. I searched for that imposter syndrome. I said, okay, here it's going to come. And it wasn't there. And for the first time in my life, and I think it was because I worked so hard on the ground for the 2 years to sort of overcome people's name recognition expectations of me. Like all my opponents then and pretty much since have said, oh, it's just an accident of history that he's in the role he is. He's expecting everyone to vote for him because of his last name, and that'll catch up with him sooner or later, or he won't get elected the first time. And I worked the ground. I went door to door right across the district. I got to know all the different community organizations, and I earned their support in that election. And people actually came out, put a little X beside my name and said, no, we definitely want you to go. I'm like, okay. People actually chose me through a process of saying, we're trusting you to be our voice in Ottawa, and we're making that choice deliberately. And I'd also run in a very authentic way about who I was and what I was. And I felt that people knew what they were getting when they voted for me in my district. And so I didn't feel that imposter syndrome, and I haven't since. I keep saying, look, I will continue to serve. I'll continue to do the best I can and try to do it in as authentic a way as possible, a way that is true to me with all the strengths and flaws that I have, as any individual does.
Well, what you're describing tracks with the evidence on imposter thoughts, which is,
I'm so glad to hear
this is
that.
encouraging, right? You would otherwise have to change the way that you think, but.
Because that's what psychologists do so well, to make
constantly.
people change the way they think.
We do that for a living.
You're so successful. Works. Exactly.
Thank
100%.
you for respecting my profession every bit as much as I admire yours, Prime Minister. But I think that in all seriousness,
that is such a weird exchange. Like, to me, it sounded like they were taking a bit of pokes at each other's careers, and even the psychologist is like, yeah, if you don't respect me, buddy, you should get into my mind and see how little respect I have for you. That's my understanding of that, and maybe I'm just looking for the confirmation bias, but that was super cringe.
Seriousness, one of the surprising benefits of those imposter thoughts is they create a gap between what you think other people expect of you and what you feel capable of, and that leaves you motivated to close the gap, which you did. Do you ever worry that not feeling like an imposter makes you complacent?
No, there's no ability to be complacent in this job. Not when you're still charged up about it. The challenges, particularly in this time, that continue to get thrown at us, all the range of crises that are hitting right now all around the world, but our democracies, but also our countries, combined with all the steady progressive work that we need to do of lifting kids out of poverty and helping with $10 a day childcare and delivering the fight against climate change and creating good jobs through a greener economy and working with reconciliation with Indigenous people. There are like so many big things we have to keep doing while there's war in Ukraine, conflict in the Middle East, climate change hitting the world, backsliding of democracies, foreign interference, rise of autocracies, there's all this going on. There's no complacency in this job.
You're describing some of the many things that make this one of the hardest jobs on earth. And it's unbelievable to me that it comes with so little training. But here you are doing this job every day. How do you deal with the ongoing thoughts about, do I want to keep doing this? I know you've gone on record saying you think about quitting approximately every day.
Yeah, I think that's part of a process where if you're going to be honest about doing a job like this, that has the responsibilities and the impact that it has, you have to check, maybe not every day, but you have to check that you're up for it, that you're all in every given day. Because people out there, the 40 million people that I am directly responsible for serving, deserve a leader that is focused on them with everything they have every single day. And that sort of check on, am I able to do that? Am I motivating my team to do that? Am I driving that forward? Am I fully all in, even though I've been in it for a few years, even though it's harder now than it was before, even though my opponent's getting traction for all the wrong reasons, all those different things, if they're enough to make you say, yeah, no, maybe, then you shouldn't be doing it. I learned this being a teacher, where I would work hard all day, come home absolutely exhausted, but so excited about what the next day was going to bring. When you find a job that charges you up like that, where you are deeply excited about doing it, no matter how hard it gets, and aware of the awesome responsibility and impact that you get to have, then it's sort of intellectually honest to check in with yourself regularly.
Okay, so this is the biggest slip that Justin Trudeau has ever done, in my opinion. He's just compared a job where people are concerned about, like you go to get a job and they say, why do you want this job? No one really says this to their employer, but 9 times out of 10, I need the money, bro. What do you mean? Why do I want this job? I need the money. Everywhere is hiring. I chose this place because I'm qualified, or there's very few jobs to actually apply for. I'm choosing here because I'm hoping to get hired. That's like one of the main reasons why people pick a job. Now, of course, once you're, established, once you have certain qualifications, once you have a little bit more of maybe a nest egg where you can leave a job that's just for money and get something that makes you feel better. Maybe it's more ethical. Maybe it's more your fit, whatever that is, right? That's a great position to be in. That's not what being a prime minister of a country is. In fact, that's not what being a high-level public servant is. Maybe a entry-level government job is about, having a pension and working for the government and whatever, right? It's a cushion job. I don't think anyone would really deny that. But when you're the prime minister, even when you're a leader of a party, it's not about you. No one cares how you feel. No one cares what you're feeling on the inside and how this job makes you feel. You're a public servant, especially as the leader of a country. It does not matter how you feel as the leader of a country. Nobody cares. Literally, nobody cares about your feelings. It can make you feel good. It can make you feel bad. We don't give a shit. You are leading 40 plus million people in this country. Suck up your emotions and do the right thing that is in the best interest of the people that you serve. That's what being the prime minister or the president is about. Justin Trudeau just used that opportunity to say, well, I've been really excited about waking up and going to work, and he made it all about himself. That's what a narcissist does. A public servant, the leader of a country, has nothing to do with how it makes that person feel. It's about serving. You should be exhausted. You should be, my God, I just spoke to, a mom of 3 kids, and the father has 3.5 jobs, and he's working 80, 90 hours a week, and they can't afford anything because of how I've been running this country. And that's what really drives me. I leave those conversations with tears, but I hold them in because, there's cameras, and I don't want to be crying all the time, because every conversation I have with, the average person makes me just absolutely destroyed. And that's what fuels my ambition to go work. But he didn't do that. He just said he's excited to go to his work. And he's, that's what a job should be. And it's just very narcissistic. Very, very narcissistic. And that's why our economy is in the state that it is, because he doesn't listen to the people. He doesn't listen to the voices. He doesn't listen to us. There was the biggest peaceful protest that has ever happened in the history of Canada, arguably even North America. Peaceful protest, key word in there. Biggest peaceful protest. And Justin Trudeau's response, never once listened to anything, labeled them as X, Y, and Z, slandered them, threw shit at the wall, and then hired a bunch of UN stormtroopers to come and beat everybody up. Families, women, men, old people. A horse stomped on a disabled Indigenous woman in a wheelchair or whatever it was, right? Like, it's just absolutely insane. Insanity to the highest level. But yeah, no, Justin Trudeau wants to wake up feeling good and wants to make sure that his job fulfills his desires and his needs. It's all about him. That's what a narcissist says. I'm with you. I see in the comments, Trudeau's got to go. Trudeau's a narcissist. Trudeau's an asshole. And it's just so friggin' exhausting, everybody. It's so exhausting because we want the election. We want it to happen. We want this guy out because the other guy, right? Pierre, the one who's going to be the next prime minister, when he talks to people at his rallies, when he talks to people on the street or wherever he is, you see more of compassion. You see more empathy. He has more humanity. Tremendous. He's almost relatable, right? People relate to Pierre a lot more than they ever do to Justin Trudeau. And I don't know if that's a marketing strategy, but it does seem genuine. And that's why he's won people over, is he has that genuine human touch, where Trudeau is propping himself up on a chair, up on a pedestal, on top of a mountain, looking down at us going, hey, you guys say you're suffering, but I feel good doing what I'm doing, so I'm going to keep doing that. That's literally what a dictator does. But yeah, no, to all the normies out there, no way Canada could ever be a dictatorship, right? Right? But yet here we are. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone between, that's where we're going to end this video. I would love to continue it. There still is more of the interview. We're probably going to do a part 2 on this. So stick around. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you turn post notifications on, because you're not going to want to miss the second half of this. On your way out, I'd love to know what you guys think about this interview so far. Let me know down in the comments. Enjoy the rest of your day. Go Oilers. Peace and love, everybody. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.